Alright, let's dive into this because it's a conversation that's heating up in the rugby world right now. So, Tim Horan, a Wallabies legend, has just dropped some pretty bold suggestions after the team's recent win against Japan. And honestly, it's got me thinking, what's the bigger picture here? Let's break it down. First off, the Wallabies just clinched a 35-32 win, which sounds great on paper, but it was closer than anyone expected. Japan almost pulled off an upset, and that's not something to brush off. What makes this really interesting is that despite the win, Horan is calling for some major changes. Personally, I think this speaks volumes about where the team is right now. They're in a transition phase, and every decision feels like it's under a microscope. Now, one of the big calls Horan's making is about Joseph-Aukuso Suaalii. He's saying Suaalii is being wasted at outside centre. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just about one player's position, it's about how the team is utilising talent. Suaalii's a powerhouse, right? We've seen what he can do in the NRL, but in this role, he's just not getting the ball enough. Horan's suggesting a shift to the outside backs, where he can use his height and speed more effectively. In my opinion, this is a no-brainer. If the game's not coming to him, you've got to put him where he can make an impact. What many people don't realise is that rugby's all about positioning. It's not just about having great players, it's about having them in the right spots. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Horan's also calling for Carter Gordon to step in at fly half. Declan Meredith has been solid, but Horan's arguing that Gordon's the long-term solution. This raises a deeper question: are the Wallabies thinking about the future, or are they just trying to patch things up for the next game? From my perspective, this is where coaching philosophy really comes into play. Les Kiss has a tough job. He's got to balance immediate results with building a team that can compete in the next World Cup. Personally, I think bringing in Gordon is a risk worth taking. He's got the talent, and sometimes you've got to throw players into the deep end to see what they're made of. Now, let's talk about the midfield pairing. With Len Ikitu out, Hunter Paisami stepped up, and he was everywhere on the field. 10 carries, top tackler, he had a massive game. But here's the thing, Suaalii was the other half of that duo, and he just didn't have the same impact. A detail I find fascinating is that Suaalii ran the ball 6 times for less than 15 meters. That's not his fault, it's a systemic issue. What this really suggests is that the Wallabies' game plan isn't maximizing their players' strengths. If you've got a guy like Suaalii, you've got to design plays that get him the ball in space. Otherwise, you're leaving so much potential on the table. And this brings me to a broader point: rugby is evolving. Teams that succeed are the ones that adapt, that find new ways to use their players. Look at what Japan's doing. They're not just relying on traditional strengths, they're innovating. The Wallabies need to do the same. In my opinion, Horan's calls aren't just about fixing problems, they're about pushing the team to think differently. If they want to stay competitive, they can't just stick to what's comfortable. They've got to take risks, try new things, and maybe even fail a few times along the way. So, here's my closing thought: rugby's not just a game of skill, it's a game of strategy. The Wallabies have the talent, but do they have the vision? Horan's suggestions are more than just line-up changes, they're a challenge to the team's identity. Are they willing to reinvent themselves? Because if they're not, they might just get left behind. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Is Horan onto something, or is he overstepping? Let's keep the conversation going.